you gon' wish you did. When you watch the clock work up, don't mind me. I'm just trying to work, stacking up the dip. I got a bigger move to serve. Please don't try me. You can't bite your lip, but you gon' wish you did. When you watch the clock work. Mama told me I'm selling myself short. That ain't the toughest pill I had to swallow. Didn't come out crawling out of school to let fools talk me into moving holler, but I can't regurgitate the feeling. Blood is about to hit the ceiling. That'll be a waterfall they won't chase while they keep all the bills they put a win in. Man, I'm coming from the slums of the city. My skin got a head start to thicken. They don't have a single vendetta against me, but talk like they buy me out my missions. Push back for miles for moving up inches. What good is your brother? All you doing is wishing. No one but me make this decision. First 15's what I kept on mixing. Same way I started, the same way I finish. I love me for popping off without a limit. You can miss me with all of your thoughts of me feeding my drive. See it is tipping me, driving me wild, but you don't be tripping me. Lost in my zone, ain't no one to see from me. Right now I'm serving someone else's dream. Not for too long, I'll be playing your Jeffrey. Take out the trash, stack up the checks. I'll go send back to my party collect. I see why the time plot with no regrets. It costs the same, 2 car collect. If not more, no tricks to rest. I catch you slipping when you make a mess. You see my face, begin to test. But now in your mouth, see what I do next. Don't mind me. I'm just trying to work, stacking up the dip. I got a bigger mood to serve. Please don't try me. You can't bite your lip, but you gon' wish you did. When you watch the clock work, don't mind me. I'm just trying to work, stacking up the dip. I got a bigger mood to serve. Please don't try me. You can't bite your lip, but you gon' wish you did. When you watch the clock work. Tell me what it is in the drop top. Slick like red, keep it lit like I stay with a bit. The lane I'ma switch right quick last time. Work, tick, tock. I've been hungry, can't talk about money. No pork chops, that's duck funny. Pockets touching pool table corners. I dive into my full purpose. You pour curtains when it's all over. This show don't stop. I got bars without cops. Constellation, my new location. No stars that told me be patient. Dragon flow is not super saiyan. Peep what I'm saying up in the AM, I'm working. Don't sleep too much, but I'm working. Don't keep too long, but I'm working for certain. They lurking, the devils, the doubters, free rappers, the vision be clouded. 2020, keep it 100. Taking game like I'm punting. I still go stupid, no dummy. Play the cards, no Jim Rummy. I'm with the sugar, honey, iced tea without the honey. My life ain't sweet, but it's sunny. Simple way that we shine. It's more about time and less about rushing the grind. Don't mind, don't mind, don't mind. Don't mind me. I'm just trying to work, stacking up the dip. I got a bigger mood to serve. Please don't try me. You can't bite your lip, but you gon' wish you did. When you watch the clock work, don't mind me. I'm just trying to work, stacking up the dip. I got a bigger mood to serve. Please don't try me. You can't bite your lip, but you gon' wish you did. When you watch the clock work, don't mind me. Please don't try me. Don't mind me. Please don't try me. Don't mind me. Please don't try me. Don't mind me. Please don't try me.
All right, we made it.
Yay!
Hey, Catherine, how you doing?
Good. How are you doing today?
I was over here jamming.
I know
really That's my favorite song by Cheyenne G for y'all who need to go check it out. Clockwork. You know, we getting that clockwork. And no, me and Catherine are not matching on purpose. This was a complete, synergy of the minds, just like that. But how's everything going for you this week? It's a heavy week.
It's a heavy week, but a good week. There has been some, as we all know, accountability. So, it's bittersweet. I'm feeling real good today. Had to rock the black for the show.
Yes.
So what about you? How's your week going?
It's been up and down. You know, we lost DMX last Friday, unfortunately. For those of you who, I mean, the whole world knows, I was always a huge fan of DMX. His poeticism just meant the world to me. He was, like I said, he was like the next best thing after Pac, you know, and he was in his own lane even then. So, you know, just a little sad about that still. And then, of course, Black Rob, we just lost. And it's just got me thinking, like, are we just at that age now where all of our stars and all of our, you know, celebrities are just starting to pass? You know, it just seems kind of weird. They say everything happens in threes, but it's been way more than that, Catherine.
It's been a lot. And like for me, a lot of our artists and our greats, they're dying very young. 50 is young.
Yeah.
So relatively that's very, very young. So I don't know what it is in the air, but we've lost so many. And even last year, Kobe, Chadwick, just too many of our, I call, you know, to me, like DMX is somewhat of a hero to me.
Yeah.
I know, like I mentioned it on the last show, I used to listen to him all the time. You know, some of his songs got me through some of my worst times in life. So
yeah,
I don't know what it is.
Definitely. So yeah, we have a lot to talk about. Definitely, of course, as we all know, the big news that happened yesterday within the Derek Chauvin trial. I tried to not even say his name as best as I can, but you know, it's one of those things that happens. But definitely want to get into some other news, and then we'll get into that. So I'll start off with Carolyn Horn. For those of you who may have been watching the show for a long time, we spoke about Carolyn Horn, who was an officer that actually stopped or interfered with some police brutality actions that was happening on her force within. I don't know if it was her partner or someone else that she had on the force that she was working with. She stopped them from doing an illegal chokehold and got reprimanded for it and did not receive her pension. So this is something we reported on way back when we first started the show a year ago. And now this week, actually, it came out that she, in fact, the order was removed and she was able to get her pension. And I think this is really monumental, especially happening this week with the Derek Chauvin trial and the Floyd, you know, trial, it being the way that it is, because this is a cop who did the right thing, you know. And I know when we talked amongst ourselves, we were wondering, like, well, what happens to the other cops? We know a bunch of cops were actually being looked into, you know, in regards to what happened to George Floyd. So I'm super excited that this happened for her. Let her be an example of policing done the right way. She stood her ground and she knew what was right, and she knew that what they did wasn't right. And there's so many instances where I do question their partners. You know, we know most cops in most of the precincts, they're now in twos. They're not working alone. So right. Well, who gives them the authority, or who tells them that you cannot stop someone from doing what's right? So I'm just really excited that this happened, and I think we should be talking about her more and more and more and more.
I agree. And what it kind of hopefully gives some of the good cops, you know, we hear this a lot, that there are a lot of good cops out there, but it gives them hopefully the courage to speak up, to know that they would have support. I know the immediate reaction was a consequence for her, but and also with the trial, with the guilty verdict, I know that does not give the other trials very much. I'm not going to say hope, but it's not looking good for them either to have one, you know, guilty verdict on the board. So we'll see how that pans out for them. But at this moment, it's not looking too good.
Yes, absolutely. With that being said, we want to bring in one of our faves who holds us down when he needs to hold us down. And he always, you know, comes through with the best, you know, commentary. So we're going to welcome Chris up to the stage. Hey, how are you?
Back.
Absolutely. So sound off on this really quickly. How do you feel about this Karen Horn situation, the reversal, and her being able to get her pension?
Karen Horn.
She was the officer that lost her pension for interfering with an illegal chokehold with one of her fellow officers.
No, I think this kind of, I was listening to what Kat was saying. I kind of agree with that. It kind of sets the standard, or at least a precedent.
Yeah.
So now going forward, there is something that people can refer back to, saying that going forward, you can't do this, or you can't have this going forward. So I think it's, I guess, something positive, some silver lining.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So, you know, we're excited. We're going to keep following her story. Like I said, hopefully more officers can see her, and that, like you said, it could be a precedent. But there needs to be more of this done. And unfortunately, even though we got the verdict that we got yesterday, there was another situation that happened just not even within the shadows of this verdict. And Catherine, I'll let you go ahead and talk about it.
So this is very, 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 very tragic news. A young girl, 16 years old, has passed away at the hands of a police officer. She called the police for help. Well, allegedly, that's what we're hearing, that she called for help. She was being jumped and she was defending herself with a knife. And in turn, when the police arrived, they shot her 4 times in the chest, and she passed away yesterday from the gunshot wounds. So this comes with the news of the verdict, and then later on this day, we hear the news of Ma'Khia Bryant. So this is just, the whole system to me just needs to be reformed. I don't think that, it's so sad because as a people, we want to, celebrate this news of the verdict, but also we can't, because in the same day, we have a young teenage girl, a baby. She was 16 years old, passed away from police violence. So how are you guys feeling about that?
Chris, I'll let you go first.
It was devastating to hear what happened, especially how it happened, considering from what is being reported that she was the one who called for help. Seeing her mom on the news and how calm she was speaking, you could tell she was holding it together. What was very discerning was a lot of the commentary online regarding her circumstances. Because she had a knife, all of a sudden it just rules out any support that she needs, or saying her name or anything like that. But we've seen officers apprehend white males armed with firearms all the time without harm. Some of them get Burger King, some of them get a trip to the mall. It's ridiculous how the police departments are, for a lot of cities, they take up 80% of these budgets, right? They get all the trainings that they want. They are equipped down to the nines. They got drones. They got different type of cars. They have pepper sprays, tear gas, tasers, just everything they need to be able to be effective in their job. So the idea that a 16-year-old girl with a knife all of a sudden just threw everything out the window, you guys didn't know how to de-escalate it or figure your way around it, is probably the biggest waste of money I've ever seen.
Yeah, definitely. I think what's interesting too is just a few days ago, what day was that? Was it Friday? There was another mass shooting in Indianapolis. Another mass shooting in Indianapolis at a FedEx facility. And, just to put myself out there, I used to work at FedEx back in my college days. That was my graveyard shift that we were talking about a couple weeks ago. I said at the airport, but yes, I did used to work for FedEx, and they were very tight on security in my city. Now, this was in Oakland, of course. So it could have been a little different, because most of us that work there look like this. I can't say that for Indianapolis.
Yeah.
But just to think that, I think there's been a map and there's been a timeline within the last 30 days, how many mass shootings there have been at the hand of young white males, just period. I think the only Black mass shooters that we can think of, we know of because it was, such a huge deal. So we had Christopher Dorn, and then we had the sniper in DC. Yeah. That was 20, 30 years ago. Those are the only ones that I can think of. And just to think that this amount of force and this amount of fear is being delivered to our people, even a 16-year-old young girl. And so often we're talking about the Oscar grants. We're talking about the men that have been killed by police. And a lot of times we don't talk about the young women. But right. That you could be a 16-year-old little girl and you have a knife in your hand, and that warrants shots.
Yeah.
In front of her neighbors and her neighborhood. It's just, I'd like to say it baffles me, but it doesn't, because this is what they do.
Yeah, and to add on to that, I want to make it clear, the cops' jobs are not executioners.
Yes.
It's their job to judge whether or not someone deserves to live after a crime is committed. That's why we have a justice system that's supposed to regulate all that for us.
Mm-hmm.
It's baffling to know that people are okay with this because she had a knife. It's not the job. Watching the footage of how quick and easy it was for the cop to just make that decision, oh, okay, let me just shoot her. And it was that. It was just, it seemed so nonchalant. I was like, what did I just, like, I had to rewatch it because I was unsure about what I just watched, because it just seemed as it was just like he was playing Call of Duty or something. It was just so easy for him.
Yeah.
Or her.
For me, that brings up like two things. One, that the fact that they have released the body cam video so fast. I you know, that to me, it gets me thinking, are they going to actually have justice for her? Or is this maybe to even, I don't know, sway the audiences to think that the police department, they're trying to be as honest as possible by revealing the body cam footage so fast? And then also, there's a lot of outlets that aren't even naming her as a girl. They're calling her a woman. And that, you know, there's always this kind of adultification of young Black kids, like Trayvon Martin. He was first released as a 20-year-old man. He was a boy, you know, and it's also this, we need to really point out this was a young girl, a teenage girl who was afraid, who was scared. So she called for help, as a lot of people in that situation would do, while also trying to defend herself with a knife. So it's very tragic.
It's very good you brought that up, that point. Go ahead.
Yeah, and exactly, them releasing the footage to me tells me that they didn't see anything wrong. They thought all the actions and all the choices were correct. Because any police department that we've seen, from what we've seen in the past, when they know it was something sketchy or they're not completely sure on how to defend it, they take a lot more time trying to get this footage out. They have to look at it, they have to analyze it, they have to go through all these people before the city all of a sudden it was just available just like that. So it kind of rings that bell.
Yeah, definitely. I just, like I said, it's just really disheartening. And then even to think about the young Latino man who was shot and killed last week, they said he had a gun. Perhaps he had a gun. But at no point did he point a gun in their direction. He threw the gun. In my mind, and this is just me coming up with a scenario, because he was so young, he probably was very, influenced into whatever was going on that day. Somebody handed little boy the gun. He took off, and he threw the gun, and then he still ends up getting murdered and killed. After all, he was ready to surrender and put his hands up. So to me, it's like, what are our tactics? What are the reasons? Who says shoot first, ask questions later?
Exactly. And you see it. The thing is, like, the tactics are there because we see them deploy them whenever a white person is doing something crazy. I literally was just looking at a video of this white man and this police officer wrestling in the aisle of a store. That police officer was on top of them, and the guy reached for his gun, and he said, "Don't do that." Grabbed his hand and moved it. I don't see that being the same if that was any Black person. Like, I don't think it would have got to the wrestling part. The idea that they were able to have a nice little tussle in the middle of the thing, and he was handcuffed, and everything was merry after that. It's baffling.
I want to bring up Jessica's comment because she's absolutely correct. And Jessica, if you're just tuning in, we did just speak to this. You're absolutely correct. He was not a young man. He was a little boy. I say young man because I think 13 is teenage years. So I think in my mind, young man, but I mean, we can definitely have that conversation. Would you guys classify 13 as a young man, or would you say little boy?
As a parent, I would say little boy, just because, like, I have a daughter. Well, she's 4. She's very little, but I would see her as a baby. Like, I can imagine her as 13, 14, 16. She would still be my baby. So I think, but, as you do get older in your teenage years, you are a young man, young woman. But to me, 13 is, it's a boy. He's a baby.
Yeah, I agree. So my apologies, you guys. Just, 13, I think teenager in my mind. I think teenager, and I think that's something we do with young boys as well. Like, we teach them to be men when they get to a certain age. Like, okay, you're a young man. Now, I can even envision just being in my middle school, and the teachers would even say, "Excuse me, young man," at school. So that's definitely something that we need to look into and really understand. Yeah, these are little boys and little girls, and they are impressionable. And 9 times out of 10, they don't know exactly what they're doing, and they deserve to be talked to instead of treated with violence so harshly. So I definitely agree. So thank you for that, Jessica. And Keon, too, he also said that he considers 13 a little boy. Now, if I tell a 13-year-old you a little boy, they're going to be like, no, I am grown.
I'm a bill.
Yeah, so this is what y'all really want to be grown so bad, right? No. But yeah, so definitely this is something that needs to be dealt with. What do you guys think can really be done? Because we've been talking about the problem. We know that there's a problem. What do you all think is a workable solution, or at least a place where we can start to get to a solution?
For me, it starts with, I know the campaign about defunding the police, but for me, it starts kind of there, a whole reform of the system. There's so much money put into the police departments in these communities that are really deprived of a lot of other resources. They're deprived of educational resources, of extracurricular resources. So all of this money that we're putting into protect and serve is not, to me, it's not in the right places. And if we start there, where maybe we can offer them therapy and other community resources, and just also a reform of the entire system, because to me, not only the police system needs to be reformed, but the prison system. There's a lot of systems in this country that don't work. Well, they work for white people, but they don't work for us, and they don't work for majority of our citizens. So I don't even know if that's a start. That's
it's just, like reforming the system is what we have to do. Like so I work for the government. I work in recreation. Our city police department is 80% of our budget. I think 88 to be exact. Working in the community centers, we're expected to have the exact same touch and the exact same reach of our PD department, and have the exact same in our community with not even half or a quarter of the budget. So I saw a statement the other day that was saying that safer communities don't have more police officers; they have more resources. And it's really reallocating these funds to ensure that these cities, especially the inner cities, have all the resources to be more successful and a little bit more functional. Because what do police officers do after they don't prevent crime. Like,
they solve crime.
They create
more crime.
Because
I know my car has been broken into quite a bit, and I didn't get any of my stuff back. The people who did it didn't get in trouble. That's a crime.
Yeah.
So, and then you call the police and they say, oh, well, unfortunately, I'm like, y'all got cameras. What? Y'all circling the block. Y'all just gonna let somebody break my window, take all my stuff, and nothing happens?
Right. They put in a police report.
Right. And there's high crime in these areas where there are no resources. If you have someone who is extremely poor and they see an opportunity to take in a way that is illegal, sometimes that's what they resort to. So I think like you see a correlation, like Chris was saying.
Definitely. Well, we're definitely constantly watching these other stories develop. We think that there needs to be more news, regarding these different cases that are happening. We're going to follow them. We're going to keep watching, and hopefully, things come abreast. And I just want to show Keon's comment really quick. Technically, foot police don't solve it. There's a detective who usually takes the case. Where are those detectives? Do y'all met a detective?
Mm-mm.
I ain't never met no detective. No. I wonder how many detectives there are to policing. I don't know, but that's a part of the system. So to me, the system just isn't functioning in a way that it serves the community. They work for us, and I think that's the bottom line. And I think that's what a lot of these cops are not realizing, is that you are hired and working for us. You're being paid by our tax dollars. You are to protect and serve me. And if you're not doing that, then that is a problem. I also have an issue with cops being transported from other cities and other areas, and they have no awareness around what's happening in this community. It used to be back in the day where the people would know where this cop lives. They can go to this cop's house. They can have a conversation with this person, especially the sheriff. And that's just not what it is. I go to outside areas I'm talking specifically about Oakland and even in LA. I travel outside of the county and I see billboards on the side, on the freeways, to go be an Oakland cop. And it's like an hour away.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
This is real life. And these are people coming into our cities that are so disconnected, they do not care. They have no care in the world. They don't care about your auntie, your granny, nobody. They don't know you. They're here to do a job, and they're here to play, video games, basically, with people's lives. So that's my rant about that. But we definitely do want to hop in and talk about yesterday's verdict. So as you all know, I hate to say his name, But the officer, Derek Chauvin, who was identified, as you can all see, because we all watched the video and we saw him with his knee on George Floyd's neck, was actually given a guilty verdict yesterday for all 3 counts. I'll just go ahead and say it. I was surprised. I was all day yesterday expecting to hear a not guilty or just something that was just not going to settle well within my stomach. So for that to come out, I was really surprised. This is one of the first times that we've seen this, if we have before ever. So what do you all think? How do you all take this verdict?
I was honestly shocked. I was with you. Like I wasn't watching my phone, but once I got like the notification saying it was a guilty verdict, I was like, wow, I didn't expect that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie, his defense attorney, is that what they're called?
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't good. So I mean he was very questionable. He was giving me FX lawyer, but
not FX, Law and Order.
barely that. But no, like it was refreshing to have, I don't want to call it good news, but to have something positive or something that was just happen in this movement.
Thank you.
Yeah. I agree. I think so. Y'all know I don't cry. I mentioned that before. I'm not a crier.
You get a group.
I am, but so I was watching the verdict live, and when it came in, I was so shocked. I had tears of joy and frustration all at the same time because I thought about all the other cases where there was injustice. So while this is accountability, I don't really feel like it's justice. But I was shocked. I was completely thrown off. I did not expect that. And it felt good in the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to show Keon's as well. I held my breath the entire time, and that's a shame that even with recorded evidence, we still had that feeling that he may get off.
Yeah.
I'll take it a little bit further. It's even shocking that with court recorded evidence that this even had to go through trial. I know we have the judicial system and due process. I know that that's a thing. I know we have to go through that process. But the fact that it was even, how long was it? A 2-week trial?
Yeah.
For something we clearly all saw live on videotape.
With the evidence, all the witnesses, and we all were still unsure. It says a lot about the system.
Yeah, and we're going to go to a clip really quickly that we thought kind of eloquently displayed some of our mixed emotions and feelings in regards to the verdict yesterday. And Catherine, I'll let you go ahead and tell everybody what this clip is of.
So Shannon Sharp, he had some really good comments and just a really good reflection on his feelings. To me, it summed up how I was feeling exactly too. So we're just going to show this clip really quick. Want to know what you all think.
Hopefully George Floyd's family gets some measure of relief knowing that the person responsible for taking this man away from them is being held accountable, and they get some finality, because there are so many others, from Sandra Bland to Philando Castile to Eric Garner to Alton Sterling to Walter Scott, that the perpetrator didn't have to face accountability. Yeah. So we get some accountability. Skip, this is a pebble in the ocean, because far too many have not been held accountable. Far too many have been able to do this with impunity, don't have to worry about anything. Skip, there's a young lady, she was 17 years old at the time, Darnella Frazier. I want to give her flowers, because you and I know, and the world know, had she not taped this, had this not been on video, Derek Chauvin would not be held accountable. Derek Chauvin would have still been a police officer, and he still would have been out there terrorizing the community, because he put none of what transpired in his actual report. Skip, he said, guy resisted. He had some kind of medical emergency. No weapons were found at the time. The weapon that you used, Derek Chauvin, was your knee. You never mentioned that you had your knee on this man's neck for 10 minutes. Skip it. And
so we can keep going on and playing it, but
He's right. And let's not forget, when a lot of this was starting to come about, and keep in mind, I didn't watch the entire trial. I really only watched the closing arguments on the last day. But apparently, Derek Chauvin, this was not like a first time thing for him either. He has been accused of using brutal force in the past. So this is something he felt he had the right to do. And something that the defense attorney kept saying, when he was doing his remarks, he was saying something like a sensible officer or, a officer with any sense would think, X, Y, and Z. Clearly, the man wasn't sensible. Right. Clearly, he wasn't in his right mind. He hasn't been since the beginning of time. And just the narrative that the defense was using, also saying, okay, well, there were a lot of people surrounding him. And you can see his eye movements were moving around. He needed to be aware of his surroundings because at any given point in time, there could have been, I'm not quoting him exactly, but there could have been a riot or someone could have came up behind him and, his life was in danger. First of all, he had a gun. He had 2, 3, 4 cops already with him. So I don't understand how that's even being used in this court as a plausible cause for that has nothing to do with him having this knee on this man's neck for 9 minutes. And the defense attorney's argument was, which wasn't a good argument at all, was that cops need to make these split decisions in the moment. Your foot, your knee was on a man's neck for 9 minutes. That is not a split decision. You had 9 minutes to think about whether or not you should remove your knee from his neck, so that's to me, that was a very, like Chris said, very FX of them to use that, because that's how a lot of these other cops have got off, is in the moment, the split decision. They have to make these decisions very fast, but 9 minutes is too long. Like
people telling you they can't breathe. Like it's come on, guys. Yeah.
Like how many times he said it 27 times within the first couple of minutes. And they were saying, they also used the defense that, if he was talking, he was speaking, then he was breathing. He's able to breathe, so at some point he was still able to breathe. And he was even saying thank you to the officers, when they were trying to put him in the car and said, we'll turn on the air conditioning. All of these things to me don't matter because the man still died in your hands. And that's not your job. Your job is not to kill him. Your job was to protect him and to protect the community, exactly. And he just wanted to know what was going on. He was begging for his life in the beginning. He had every right to do so. Every right to do so. There's a comedian, I forget his name, but he also had a video that it made so much sense that it kind of shocked me that I hadn't thought of it that way. He said that cops are trained to deal with escalations. They're trained to deal with people who don't want to be arrested. This is your job. Otherwise, someone can just walk up and say, hey, you need to go to jail. And that person will go to jail. But that's the cop's job, is to restrain people against their will and to get them to go to jail. So you using the defense that, he was restraining, he wasn't complying. That's not a good enough defense. That it's your job to deal with people who aren't complying, or else we wouldn't need you.
Yeah.
What is a cop's job? If everyone complied, everybody would just walk themselves to the courthouse and put handcuffs on themselves and go to jail when they do something wrong. We're not going to just willingly do that. So at some point, you have to learn how to deal with people who are non-compliant. And that does not mean that you kill them or you pepper spray them in the face or you do whatever all of these other ridiculous instances have happened. Your job is to know how to deal with and handle with people who are non-compliant in the first place. And I'm like, wow, duh. Yeah. That makes so much sense. Like, what else is your job?
Mm-hmm. Literally. All that.
Just that. So then in regards to another situation that came up, I'll let you go ahead and throw this clip up because this is the aftermath of the verdict. And, they had to try it, y'all. So, Catherine, I'll let you introduce this clip as well.
So this clip is just basically discussing that after the verdict was delivered, I'll just play it so everyone can see, but it's just talking about what happened after the verdict was delivered in the court.
There was an extraordinary moment after the jury left the courtroom yesterday. Derek Chauvin's defense asked the judge for a mistrial over comments by California Representative Maxine Waters at a weekend rally in Brooklyn Center, Minnesota. Let's listen.
We got to stay on the street, and we've got to get more active. We've got to get more confrontational. We've got to make sure that they know that we mean business.
defense argued that the comments were threats against the sanctity of the jury process. This judge denied the motion for a mistrial, but said the remarks potentially could lead to a verdict being overturned.
I wish elected officials would stop talking about this case, especially in a manner that is disrespectful to the rule of law and to the judicial branch and our function.
Waters later said she was advocating for nonviolent confrontation. We're joined now by CBS News legal analyst Ricky Kleeman. Ricky, good morning. As you heard, the judge said...
Wow.
Respectfully,
I'm going to throw Ron's comment.
What a reach.
what a reach.
A reach.
Stress.
Wow.
Even with it being a reach, because I know this system, it still feels like it's very unsettling, because I feel like even something like absurd as that can still possibly get, one of the verdicts overturned. And that's heartbreaking to me, because we can all people who are sane can see that she didn't say that. That's not what she said. That is a reach. But how are you guys feeling about that?
He can respectfully go to hell. Like I saw that. Okay, let me get my thought together. I saw it and I was like, oh my God. And then the kicker was that the Republican Party jumped on it. And they literally tried to vote Maxine or expel her from Congress. I'm like, what? Guys, didn't we just go through this?
Yeah, exactly. Wait, what? Didn't Trump, insurrection? No? Okay. Got you.
Oh, words don't matter. Wait. Okay. All right. Go off then.
What's good for the goose ain't always good for the gander, right?
Yeah.
So exactly. So what we're referring to in so eloquently is the fact that just a couple of months ago, the no longer president, number 44, was just on trial for inciting an insurrection. However, they said there's no possible way that this man could be held responsible for the actions of others. He cannot incite an insurrection. So you mean to tell me that we're going to call mistrial over something that the lovely auntie Miss Maxine Waters done said? Shout out to her daughter who was standing behind her too. I've met the both of them. They're dope. That she said, and she wasn't even specifically talking about this particular trial, but it felt as though she was talking about the police infrastructure in general and the brutality that is happening and that it needs to be reformed. That is what she was speaking to. And yes, the trial, absolutely. He needs to go to jail. We all know that. He wasn't the only one. Y'all heard the president came out and spoke about it after the fact, and we'll get into that, as well as Kamala Harris all spoke about it. And they all came from the side of, we believe that this was the correct action. Mm-hmm. So, Mr. Judge, what do you mean? I wish politicians would stop talking about it. No, your system needs to be reformed. Y'all not doing y'all jobs right.
Yeah. And the jurors aren't supposed to watch the media while they're participating in the trial. So I know Shariki said they weren't questioned right afterwards.
There was talks about them being sequestered at a certain point, so that they wouldn't be, but there's no possible way that they haven't heard about
the trial
to begin with. Everyone, this is a video that had went across the world. We were all in quarantine at the time. There were all kinds of protests, peaceful protests that were happening because of this particular situation. So there's no way someone could possibly go into this blind. I don't even think there's any way someone could have gone into this without a bias, to be completely honest.
Even if there wasn't a lot of media outlet, we all go into situations with our own biases from our own background. So I agree there wasn't a way.
Correct. And I'll be honest with you, when I was listening to the closing remarks from the defense, I was thinking to myself, if I was not that intelligent, and if I really just didn't know the way the law works, his arguments may be very convincing to me. The fact that he even went into saying, he spoke about intent. He tried to define the fact that Derek Chauvin didn't intend for this to happen, that Derek Chauvin attempted to get him into the car peacefully. He intended to give him multiple chances to be, held accountable for whatever his actions were peacefully. And then after that was done, they actually had to remove the jury from the courtroom because the prosecution said, hey, he's not supposed to do that. We're not talking about intent. That's not a part of the arguments. And legally, that's not correct. That's not what we're arguing here. We're arguing the fact that he wrongfully killed someone. within his care. We're not arguing about his intent. The judge said, okay, well, y'all handle that. I'm not about to take those remarks off the table.
See, this is that FX courtroom. Sort of Breaking Bad. Like, it was that. Sorry.
And that's kind of what had me a little wary, because once that intent, argument came up, I'm like,
yeah.
Someone can say, well, we know he didn't mean to kill him. He didn't wake up that morning and say, hey, I'm going to go kill a black man today, or even within those split seconds, did he decide, hey, I'm going to kill these people? So that worried me.
Yeah.
And that's also going to worry me as we go into the sentencing. And perhaps we can talk about this with our Bobby Boy Bob lawyer on the next episode in regards to the sentencing. But how do you guys feel about that? I heard he should be facing at minimum 12 years.
Yes. And they said we'll hear sentencing in 8 weeks, I believe, right?
Correct.
Yeah. I want him to get the maximum. I mean, it's people in prison for weed for 12 years. So I don't think 12 is enough. That's my personal opinion. I do hope he gets the maximum. And I have no sympathy for him.
Yeah.
Zero. I'm curious on, I don't know how sentencing works, to be completely honest with you, but is it going to be served consecutively or at the same time? Because
that's a good question.
I would hope that it's charge after charge after charge, not like, oh, you're serving this all at the same time.
Yeah, and I honestly wouldn't be surprised if he was up for parole within like 6 or 7 years.
Yeah.
That's typically the way these types of situations may pan out.
Yeah.
And again, now we know that they're probably going to try to have an appeal for a mistrial. So this is not over, you guys. And I know, unfortunately, we all were super excited and happy yesterday. Me, I took it with a grain of salt, because I knew that this is not over. It's not over, nowhere near over. And like, Shannon Sharp said, this is just a pebble in the pond. There's so much more that needs to be done. There's a lot more work that needs to be done on our end. And we stress this a lot on this show. Definitely. Oh, wait, sorry. Jessica just gave us some info. He has another trial coming up for tax evasion too.
Tax evasion.
We need to send Jessica a link so she can join us again.
Jessica, let us know if you want to hop on and say some words. We're curious to hear your voice and hear your opinion. Definitely. So yeah, I feel like justice hasn't been served because he's not here.
And you can't. There's no justice for the dead. It's accountability. And we'll see how far that accountability goes as far as sentencing, but it's not justice for him and his family. It's not justice for any other people who've lost their lives at the hands of the police. So for me, it's just an example, and hopefully this will be the example going forward, and that all cops should police in a way that they are fearful of what the consequences might be. But I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm a little distracted. I'm looking at Jessica's comment about him owing 30K. People who owe money to the IRS always fascinate me, especially when you have like a government job. Like, how are you not? You got one income, sir. How are you not paying your taxes?
And how are they not garnishing your checks?
Your checks, right?
I've lost
30K.
That just baffled me.
Thanks for the tea, Jessica.
Thank you for that tea, because so he has a whole lot to lose. And let's just get into this too, you guys, because I kind of felt some type of way, and we spoke about this over the phone yesterday. I was just like, okay, the theater of it all afterward yesterday, to a certain degree, rubbed me the wrong way. I don't know how you all felt about, I even saw something that said that Reverend Al Sharpton took a private jet to come be here and speak in front of the courthouse. I don't know if they're all vaccinated, but a lot of people weren't wearing masks. I saw a rapper on stage, Trey the Truth, who he's a great rapper. He's done a lot for the community. I saw him, big ups to him. It was very celebratory, but in a way that kind of made me a little uncomfortable. How do you guys feel about that? Am I alone?
No, I was baffled because how the media was acting. You thought it was the NFL draft.
Yeah.
Like, it was crazy. I felt some type of way with them having cameras in George Floyd's family's house. I was like, why are they there?
Yeah.
Either you don't need the reaction. It's not that serious. Well, it is that serious, but not like in the sense of you need to be there, seen there every moment. Like, let them have that moment to themselves. Nancy Pelosi in her speech, throw it in the bucket, throw it in the trash.
Yeah, we gotta get to that because
it was just like, it was a lot of, everybody was trying to find their moment. It gave me like after Trump had won the election and Banjo said this was a white lash, and how he had that moment for weeks and everybody talked about it. It was like everybody was trying to get that moment.
Yeah.
Where they were going to be the face of this verdict. And it was just like, guys, what the hell is happening? Like, PR team, where is your people? What is going on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did you feel about it, Catherine?
It was a show. It was a show, but I think, like Lawrence was saying on the phone yesterday, if anything was to happen to our dear friend Christian, he would want to show. And I feel the same way. Y'all better show up and show out.
We will.
For me, so I can see both sides. It was very theatrical, but it's also history. So I understand why there was such a big celebration as a people. But I just don't want that to be a distraction, from what really needs to happen and what really needs to be done. That's my fear, is that people, this is like a here you go,
Yeah.
an actual fix to the system. So
I saw a tweet that said out of 2,000 police murders, only 7 have been convicted. So yeah,
it's interesting to me too, because I may have sent this to you guys, the Raiders.
Oh Lord.
The Raiders. And I'm like a hardcore Raider fan, of course, when they were in Oakland. The Raiders even posted something saying, "I can breathe now," yesterday with the date.
Trash.
And it's like this is not your time to. I get it if you're supportive. I just feel as though a lot of these brands, a lot of these politicians, I'm just going to say a lot of Caucasian people, they're in the media. I think you guys should just be on our side, be allies, but be advocates for the root of the problem. Don't just jump on because it's a popular thing to do and to say you want to get a little bit of clout. I felt like there was a lot of clout chasing yesterday, and it made me extremely, extremely uncomfortable. Shame on you, Raiders. I'm just gonna say that. Shame on you, Nancy Pelosi. Chris, can you let the people know what Nancy Pelosi said yesterday?
Oh God, if I could remember it, I try to wash it from my brain. It was bad. It was terrible. I want to thank George Floyd for
giving his life, sacrificing
for justice or something like that. I was like, girl, what?
He was murdered. That was not a sacrifice. The man was murdered.
Kente cloth. Do that. Be silent. What is going on?
Yeah, it's just people just don't know what to say the right way. And I think, like I said, because a lot of it did feel like theatrics yesterday with it was like you said, it was like somebody had just won the Super Bowl. You have all the lawyers coming up and thanking their mama and their auntie and, and they did great. And then I had even said, okay, what exactly does Crump do? Ben Crump. What exactly is his role in all of this? Because we know that if you're a lawyer, you're licensed to practice in a particular state. So we know he's not practicing in all these states where he's going to, save, quote unquote, all of these families. So the theatrics, I think, don't help the cause. I know that there's a lot of PR that goes into this situation. And to me, it seems as though sometimes some of these leaders are jumping on for their notoriety. I hate to say that. I know this is a cause that needs to be dealt with, but to me, it felt too celebratory in the fact that we lost someone due to violence at the hands of police. And it just could have been one person saying what they needed to say, and let's go forth and move on and make things change rather than every single person having to come up and have a speech. I don't know. It could just be me.
I agree. I think though without all the media attention and the outcry and the outrage and the marketing, the PR from last year, I don't know if this would have, turned out this way. So I do think that there's some positive stuff, but like you said, now celebrating it I don't know, it's not a Super Bowl.
Sometimes the best thing to say is nothing at all.
Mm-hmm.
Like you don't have to have something to say. You don't have to always be public. Sometimes it's one sentence. You don't have to have this long statement because that's how you get yourself in trouble. Nancy is a great testament to that. She could have said, "This is a great verdict," and moved about your day. You don't have to give a whole statement, ma'am.
Yeah, definitely. And then, I don't know if they also showed video footage of the family speaking with Biden, Kamala, and Dr. Biden afterward. It was to me, it was kind of a relief because we know that the one before would not have done that at all. So it felt like, okay, we have a sensible person in power now. But how did you guys feel about President Biden reaching out to the family? And apparently this isn't the first time he's spoken to them.
It feels performative.
Yeah, I don't like it at all, knowing that Joe Biden's response to Black Lives Matter was, my goal is to give the cops more money. So that you're now going to go and take this opportunity to get your approval numbers up. Miss me. I hate that. If you're gonna be that person, be that person.
Yeah.
Don't sit here and placate the people in front of you as if this is what you're about when it's not. Like, you've never been about that, Joe Biden. Just be true to yourself.
Yeah. And that moves us into the George Floyd Police Justice Act. So the act that he promised that he is going to pass, I know he's been getting a lot of flack from Republicans about it. Do you all think that this is potentially something that could be passed, especially with this verdict happening?
I feel like it definitely might be passed, but it's a Band-Aid. To a bigger problem. So, but I think after the verdict being delivered, we'll definitely see this possibly be passed.
I see it. Yeah. Is this going through Congress?
Yes. The George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. Yeah.
So, yeah, no, I see it going through the House, and that's about it. They didn't want to give people money during COVID. I don't see Republicans voting that. They're horrible people. Sorry, I'm about to paint a wide brush.
Thank you, Josh. We can't even get $15 minimum wage. So Are we going to get this police reform?
Red state.
Mind you, we do have majority of the House and Senate. However, there are some slightly conservative Democrats that have their seats and are appealing to their Republican base, still their conservative base rather. So things are a little still kind of tricky out there for you boys.
They need 60 votes.
Yeah.
They need 60 votes. We only have 51.
Yeah. So
to get 9 Republicans to come over and vote on this.
It ain't gonna happen.
It ain't. We have this crip walk over here.
Oh. Definitely. Well, we wanted to go into a special little tidbit, and Chris, we probably might have to have you on the hot seat with this one, but we came up with our do's and don'ts for white people who are trying to connect with us and the struggle.
Oh my God.
Catherine, what is your do and what is your don't?
So my do is acknowledge what is happening and share your empathy. Educate your white counterparts, your family, your friends. My don't is don't wear dashikis. Don't do it. Never do it. If you don't even think about purchasing one, that's my don't.
Okay. That was kind of mine too.
I think we all agree. It's a very big. I have another don't too.
Go for it.
So in our group chat earlier, it got brought up that sometimes our white counterparts, they try to be for the cause and they might put an emoji that is a little darker than their skin tone. Don't do that. It's okay to be an ally with, with your beautiful skin tone that you have. And don't think gender and race discrimination are the same. They're not. So don't try to find allyship in gender and race discrimination with us. That it's not there. It's two completely different.
Definitely. Okay. So my dues is such as yours. Try to be, I wouldn't even necessarily say empathetic, but just try to gain understanding. Ask questions. Asking questions is totally fine. If I don't feel like explaining things to you, don't take it personally because it's not my responsibility. You can definitely come and watch shows such as this. Share our links. So do share our links when you see our shows come up. You can even share them. You can go back and watch them later on because we do a lot of, explanation in terms of how we're feeling as a people, especially within our demographic. Don't play the victim. I don't like hearing, oh my God, when I heard about this or when I saw that, I just cried and cried. That's fine. I get it. I totally understand. But in my heart of hearts and in my mind, I'm like, well, what do you think we're dealing with? And just the victimism of it and the victimhood and it bothers me. It bothers me. And the performativeness of it really bothers me. Don't try to use this as a moment for you to have your moment. Because right now it's not about you. So that's my do and that's my don't. What about you, Chris?
I think I got one. Okay. So do take the fight to your colleagues, your fellow white folks. Okay. So if you see something wrong, if you see something, say something. So that means your racist uncle, your questionable auntie, your racist ass friends, tell them about themselves and do not tell Black people about their experiences, whether or not it's correct or not. And that's what I got.
Yes.
Go a little bit deeper into that do not, please, because I think it needs to be explained.
What I mean is a lot of times when you have fellow white people, not fellow white people because I'm not white, but white people find themselves on our side as allies, all that stuff, they tend to take the time to try to define the struggle that I'm experiencing as if I didn't live through it. If I'm telling them something, they're not listening. What they're doing is trying to find a way to show that, oh, I'm smart enough to tell you what you have going on, when that's not what the deal is. The deal is, this is how I feel, this is the life that I live, and these are the problems. It's either you're with it or you're not. You need to organize it, categorize it for me at all. That's not what you're here to do. You're either going to support this or you're going to move to the side.
Yes. I wonder too if any of our audience members has any do or don'ts. If you do, please comment.
Definitely. I agree with everything you said.
Another don't.
You got another one?
We can go on and on.
Go ahead, Chris. Don't what?
Don't wear box braids. And I'm gonna say, I'm not even saying from a cultural point. I'm saying it because your hair don't hold it well. Hair don't hold it well. See, you see this? Y'all see this? You see how thick it is? You see how old the braids? Then the hair is sliding off. It's sliding.
Bo Derek was a phenomenon, so to speak. Yeah. She had her moment. Leave that back there. Let Bo Derek be Bo Derek. Well, this was a great conversation. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. We're going to actually be hopping over to IG Live right after this to kind of sound off just a little bit more. So if you want to join us, follow me at Shariq LeMay, Catherine at Chris Don't Say It. We're going to be on IG Live, just kind of being a little more raw and uncut with this conversation. So definitely, if you want to hop on with us, we do our after hours at 7 o'clock. I just want to go around and get some final words. I'll start with you, Catherine.
My final words are, I've said it like many times during the show already, but this isn't justice. This is a Band-Aid. This is definitely accountability. And I'm happy, but I want to see more. So, and protect your peace. Miss Gigi, we're missing, as Gigi would say.
Yeah.
Peace.
Oh, Sorry, I was reading Jessica's comment.
Okay, yeah, let's show Jessica's comment.
Yeah.
This is awesome. We're gonna have to bring you on next time. Some
Yes.
of this is applicable to non-Black people of color as well. One thing I'm hyper cognizant of is this my space? Is this where I listen or is this where I speak? It's a balance. I'm still working on it. Yes,
Yeah.
Jessica, you are invited to the cookout. Thank you. Also, don't self-invite yourself to the cookout. You have to be invited.
Yeah.
And if you don't know how to make potato salad, don't come.
You put raisins in your potato salad.
Chris, I want to go ahead and get your final words before we hop off to the after party.
My final words is that I don't have any, guys. I am blank. My final words is that the shit is still fucked up, but we still need to fix it.
That's for the uncut. That's for
Okay, so
We're just
we
kidding.
have a lot of work to do, and we're one step, but there's a million steps to go, and we have to get there by taking each step to the finish line.
Yeah, definitely. I will say there was something that was also shared in our group thread the other day regarding someone who sent out an email telling a Black woman, hey, basically, why are you complaining? You dealt with slavery for 400 years.
Yeah.
You can't tell me that right now things aren't better for you still. And I would say I rebuke that notion to the fullest degree. From my aunties, grand-aunties, granddaddies, I rebuke that notion that we still don't have the right to voice our opinion in regards to the way that we are treated. We live in America. This is supposed to be the land of the free. And my people are still not as free as we should be. And we haven't gotten our reparations, and I just think that that's not your place. Be more like Jessica and listen, and support as you can, and don't try to overstep certain boundaries, because there are definitely boundaries that are there. And don't use this as your moment if it's not for you. This is for the struggle, and we have to move forward. We have to keep fighting. So everybody still look at your local politicians, vote, write in, do what you need to do in order to change on a micro level the things that are around you, because if enough micro levels get changed, then the macro level will get changed. So we have to start where we can reach first. So thank you guys for watching. Go on and follow us at Yup Network, as well as our individual ones. And we're going to hop on to this after party to really dig in a little bit deeper and really, we may have a little bit more vulgarities and things in there too, but it's going to be a good talk. So love you guys. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, guys.